Hi there, my name is Owen Atkinson from Dairy Veterinary Consultancy, and this is the first of 4 short videos explaining a little bit about the PAG pregnancy test. And this first video is looking at what PAG is and a bit about the basis of the test. So PAG is actually short for pregnancy-associated glycoprotein, and these molecules are produced by a viable embryo or placenta. Unlike some other chemical pregnancy tests, for example, the progesterone test, the PAG test is very specific for pregnancy. This diagram shows how the chemicals are produced by an early embryo, including PAGs, and this is the basis of the test. So even from from day 0, which is when the egg is fertilized, the embryo develops, and in a cow at least, it becomes attached to the uterus, so implantation occurs around about day 16, day 17. So in this first 2 weeks, the embryo is growing a little bit, it becomes called a trophoblast, and even at this sort of stage before implantation, it is starting to produce some chemical messages. And one of the first identified chemical messages produced by an early embryo is called embryo-derived interferon tau, which is actually before implantation. This isn't used as part of the PAG test. However, these messages, they are important for the embryo to let mum know that it's here, to allow implantation to occur, and in essence to tell mum not to come cycling again, because of course if mum has a heat, then the embryo is going to be flushed away with that bulling activity with the uterine slime. So a failure of chemical messaging is one of the main reasons why you get a failure of pregnancy in cattle, in actual fact. But this is all by the by to an extent. The PAGs which the Alertys PAG test is looking for are only detected, or they're only produced once the attachment has occurred. So round about sort of day 19, 20, something like that. There are actually 22 known PAGs in cattle. There's probably more. It isn't quite certain what they all do. The PAG test, which has been developed by IDEXX, is called the Alertys pregnancy test, and there is a range of those, and one of the other videos later on, one of the other slideshows, explains a little bit about the different range, or the different tests in the range of Alertys pregnancy tests. It's an enzyme-linked immunoassay, otherwise known as an ELISA test, and it's been developed to detect 6 different PAG molecules in blood, serum, or milk, and it's validated to be used for pregnancy diagnosis in a range of ruminants, including cattle, sheep, goats, water buffalo, and actually bison too. There are 6 different PAG proteins used in the Alertys test. These are PAG4, PAG6, PAG7, PAG16, PAG18, and PAG19. I'm not sure it's important to know those numbers. The point is that there are more than one PAG which have been detected for in the test, because they are produced in different amounts at different stages of pregnancy. So that increases the value of the test throughout the different stages of pregnancy. And remember, none of these molecules are produced until the embryo is firmly attached to the uterine wall and a healthy placenta has been established. And that's important, because if we were detecting some of those chemical messages that are produced at day 11 or 12, we might get too many false positives. This is the kind of size of embryo that we're talking about that's producing the chemicals from the earliest stage when they can be detected using the Alertys test. So tiny size of the embryo proper. The yolk sac or allantois is slightly larger, but we're not looking at a very big embryo at all. This graph is showing how the PAG levels increase in milk at different stages post-insemination. So you can see that they start to rise from that point of implantation, day 16, day 17, but only appreciably once the embryo reaches day 25 to 26, that kind of time point. But the test has been validated to be used from day 28. So that's when we need to start testing, day 28 post-insemination. There are 2 different cutoff points. I'll explain these. So if the test level is above 0.25 and we're after day 28 post-insemination, then we can say with confidence the cow is pregnant. If the test is below 0.1 and we're more than 28 days post-insemination, we can say with confidence that the cow is not pregnant. There will be a few cows, and it really isn't many, that may fall in this recheck zone between 0.1 and 0.25. And it just means that it is safe to recheck those cows at a later stage to see whether they are likely to be pregnant or not. So again, we're talking about something at day 28 of this kind of size. The embryo is attached to the uterine wall, the placenta has begun to develop, and still quite tiny, the embryo is reasonably well established, and approximately 85% of them will go on to complete a full-term pregnancy. The image on the right is actually an ultrasound image of a pregnancy at this kind of stage, 29-day pregnancy, and you can see that well, the black part, I'll explain what we're looking at here. The black part is fluid. So when you're doing ultrasound pregnancy diagnosis, a positive result is indicated when you can see fluid in the horns. But to confirm that pregnancy, it's important that the embryo proper is visualized and preferably seen to have a heartbeat to confirm that it is viable. And this is not easy, and it actually can lead to some false negatives with early ultrasound pregnancy diagnosis, because that small embryo and the fluid associated with it can be missed. So ultrasound scanning at an early stage depends on a couple of things. One of them, a skilled operator, and second is plenty of time, not being too much of a rush, in order to detect that early embryo. Now this graph shows how the PAG levels change throughout the whole of the pregnancy. So it's the results from a large Danish study, nearly 300,000 milk recorded pregnant cows using the IDEXX Alertys pregnancy test. And it can be seen that the test continues to detect PAGs above that cutoff of 0.25 by the healthy placenta from around about day 28 all the way through to full-term pregnancy, the end of pregnancy. So each blue dot represents the average PAG result for these 300,000 cows, and then the green blue line either side represents one standard deviation around the mean. Now note that around about day 60, there is a slight dip in the mean PAG levels. The test cutoff which is used means that this rarely causes a problem, but around about 2 to 3% of pregnant cows may have a result in the recheck zone during this short period. And that's something which is worth considering, and I talk more about that in one of the later videos explaining interpretation of the test. So that brings me to the end of this first video. That was a brief overview of what a PAG is and some of the basis of the test and how PAG levels can be used to detect pregnancy from an early age. So PAG, remember, it's specific for pregnancy. Don't confuse it with progesterone testing. It is accurate to be used from day 28, and it is very suitable for early pregnancy diagnosis from day 28, as well as confirmation of pregnancy right the way through to full term. So I'll catch you at one of the later videos. Thank you very much.